Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Umloff, and I'm a national educator in the sewing and crafting industry. I'm on a new mission to help people who want to start taking their hobbies to another level and make an income with that. So, a lot of people don't really think about uh, monetizing their hobbies. They oftentimes think about having to go to craft shows or something of that nature and sell their goods. But how many times has someone seen some of your work and they're like, oh, you have got to teach us how to do that? Perhaps you belong to a quilting or sewing guild or some other kind of creative outlet. And you may be like a little too shy. Perhaps you do belong to one of those guilds and you find trouble talking to people about your projects and the process that you went in making it. And then, you might just have a desire of just sharing your talents. And that can even be to like someone like your grandchildren, for example. So there are all good ways to share what you can do with your skills. So, if you're not familiar with me, my name is Michelle Umloff, and I've been in the sewing and crafting industry for, probably about 15 years. And along those ways, I have learned so much. I think I've tried almost everything, and I want to share that journey with you all so that it makes it easier for you when you start your journey. Right? It's no sense in reinventing the wheel again. Sometimes educators are quite private about how to do it because they fear about the competition, right? And I get that, but also it's a little different because we all have such a different voice and a different gift from one another. It's not like we are doing the exact same thing, you know what I mean? So you definitely have your own unique platform in which you can teach what you enjoy doing. So this week I had someone come to my house and it was so awesome. I say that because it was rainy, it was windy, it was cold, it was all of the above. And I just held the door for her while she came in to my house. And we were kind of friends too. So the day took a little bit longer, but it was so worth it. Um, she had made some projects and she was on the very last step. So they were quilting related projects. And she was on the very final step of them, and it was holding her back from having to complete the project and give it as a gift. And so we know Christmas is coming up, so that deadline's looming in and of itself. But she also said that one of the quilts that she had made was for a friend that had a baby. Okay. So I know a lot of people, raise your hand if you can relate to this, that have started a baby quilt for someone and now that child is in college. Maybe they're even married by now because you didn't get to that point where you actually finished the quilt. You had all good intentions, but that never got done. So what I did with her was it was just a very specific lesson, and I taught her how to put on the binding. So we learned about binding, and then I showed her a way to put it on, and I explained to her like, hey, you know, different classes that you take, people are going to show you different ways. But I just recommend that you pick one way and stick with it. That way you won't get confused because this is often something that is it can be challenging. And when I went to do it, I had to reverse engineer it and figure out what was best for me. So by the end of the class, she was ecstatic. She couldn't wait to go home and try this out, and she was very, very, very pleased. She was smiling with a big smile across her face, and she couldn't wait to finish her projects. So, as a teacher, that is very rewarding to see your students smile. It's kind of funny to watch people learn in classroom because it's kind of like riding a roller coaster, for example, because you know that they're anticipating the next step, or they're getting really scared, or maybe on the verge of like, I just don't understand this, it's too hard kind of thing. But then once they reach that cusp and they feel the success that they're having, they're so happy, they're so inspired, and that's just because of a little spark that you can give them and encourage them to keep on keeping on making. So that is very rewarding in and of itself. So I was thinking, when you start a business, oftentimes you will go, say, to the library, internet, whatever. We have so many things available at our fingertips now. And you're going to look up some information about how to start a business plan, right? And that can get a little overwhelming right then and there, especially if you are the creative type, right? If you're the creative type, they will really kind of like blow you away. I don't know about you, but I oftentimes will get really blank if I have to, like say a business plan tells you to write, okay, you're going to have like your name, maybe like the title you want to give yourself, the name of your business, the location, all those kind of basics. They're really easy for us to kind of work out. But it might say, what are your goals in the next 5 years? I don't know about you, but that just totally makes me blank. And the first business plan that I wrote, I just looked at it and I just couldn't think of anything else to put down on that piece of paper. And it hasn't been until the recent years that I really realized that I think a lot differently than people who work in their left brain, right? That those kind of things come easy to them. But for those of us who are creative, we process information a lot differently, and it's harder for us to kind of like fill out those forms. So when it came to time to write my first business plan, what I did was I journaled it. And actually, that was kind of some advice that Martha Poulin had recommended when I took her teaching certification class back, I think it was even 2007. And she said to do 30 days of writing. And it's good to do that in the morning because I find that my brain is totally blank in the morning. Like I'm not thinking about anything like what I have to do that day or whatnot. And I have an automatic wake up alarm that has a tail, four legs, ears, and goes meow around 4 a.m. So my mind is just totally blank at that hour. I don't want to, I'm staying quiet and I don't want to like start my day just yet. Everybody else is still asleep. So I can get my thoughts out on paper, or if you prefer to type them out on your computer, that totally works as long as you get it out of your head and into some sort of written format that you can refer to later. And just start writing about what this looks like to you. You might say, I want to teach people how to sew. Well, who are you exactly interested in teaching how to sew, or whatever your craft is? It could be, and I hate using that word craft because a lot of people have a negative connotation associated with that, but your hobbies, your skills, okay? I thought of using the word trade passion, but that means something else. So identify who that group is. So, sometimes you read these. I have a background in psychology. So sometimes you read these books and they're like, identify your why. And it like just doesn't quite make sense because it's written for people who's in their left brain. And why do I have to write that down? So So if you're just visualize what it's going to be like when you're actually teaching someone to sew. So it could be, I want to teach them at home. I want to teach them at school. I want to teach them at a um, Girl Scout camp or a Boy Scout camp. I want to teach at the local rec center. I want to, go on retreats and have people come to me. Whatever it is, write it down and don't stop. Don't stop because, oh, well, there's all these logistics involved in this, and how are the people going to get there, or where are they going to stay, or, that kind of stuff. Don't worry about that. Those are details that we can somehow work on later. So then other things are like, who might you work for? So um, I use the sewing industry because obviously that is my specialty, but there's also plenty of other stores and businesses that are associated with the painting world and things of that nature. And think about, are you able to offer classes with them? So just last week, I had followed up with a conversation I had at a local shop, and they desperately want me to come teach a class to their customers. And so I went there and I talked to them about it. I'm really good in person. It's a little harder for me to communicate by email because that takes too long, right? I got too much stuff going on here. And if you can get my undivided attention, that's even better. And I think that's good because some of the things I want to teach you is how to present yourself professionally. I think that's going to make a huge difference. So you heard me say that I went to a Martha Pullen certification. Well, I did that because I did not know how to sew in the beginning, right? So I needed to learn how to sew. So if you've had 30 years, even if you've only had a year of experience doing what you do, what you love to do, and what you do best, you don't even have to do it best. That is a great starting point because you have the experience I never had. Okay. So I go in there and their store is phenomenal. It's so pretty. They have a large classroom and we book the time, we book the class, what they want me to do for them based upon what their customers' needs are. So that's another thing. Sometimes it's not always about you and what you want to teach. It's about what the customers or the people that you're going to meet need to teach. So you want to know like what my most popular class is. So I teach across the country, right? But I also teach locally for my community. And I started doing that when COVID came around because I knew I wasn't going to be traveling like I used to. So I applied to teach at my local college and Parks and Recreation. And my most popular class is beginning sewing. Beginning with a machine just like that one right there. And that's perfect. I love teaching the beginning class because I like planting that little seed. And for me, it makes me a better educator. Okay, so when I go out and do other classes that are more advanced, I am learning again how to explain this whole process to a beginner, right? So it's not always about you and what you want to teach. It's going to be about what your customer wants. So your customer could be that shop, your customer could be the actual sewer themselves. And it's just a really good. So if you say, we have skill sets, okay? So say you are like really, really good at sewing, okay? And you wouldn't say that you're like an expert. Nobody wants to say that they're an expert, but to somebody, you are an expert, okay? And it's often easier to teach like a step or two down below you, and because it's just easier for you to plan. Okay. You're not having to feel like you have to constantly challenge someone else and challenging yourself at the same time. That's really hard. And then some of my other better classes have been so basic, very, very simple. And they're successful also because you know that someone is going to finish it by the time the class is over. And if not, they're going to be finished to a point where they can go home and do it yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've taken some sort of class that has required that binding for that project to never, ever, ever get finished. Because they're like, hey, just bind it at the best method that you like. Okay, I wasn't quite sure what that method was just yet. So that was a little difficult for me. So some other things that you have to consider when you're making your creative business plan, think about what kind of money you want to make. We are making money here. Okay, we're doing a little business and we are going to charge people a fee for our time and our skills. Have you ever seen that meme that says when you receive something handmade from someone, about all the time and skills and knowledge that go into it, that actually makes that piece really, really valuable, right? So people do treasure your time. And if not, you have to make it known that this is a business. This is not a hobby. And so you can write down like, okay, maybe in the next year, I want to make X amount of money. It could be in the next month or the next 3 months, whatever feels comfortable to you. So you have to decide, is this something that you're working on part-time, or are you going to go in and you want to try to make this a business full-time? And figure out what is your goal. Your goal could be based on your income needs at home. Maybe it's to do a little bit of preparedness. I don't know, if you want to tuck away money for retirement or a special occasion, gifts, whatever that is. Maybe you want to buy a new car or something like that. So you need to know what your financial goals are in order for you to help you price things out, okay? So sometimes people like to say, you can approach this in a lot of different ways. So you can say like, hey, I want to start teaching classes and I just want to make some money on the side. Okay, that works for some people, but if you know that you actually want to make an income doing this, you have to have a goal. So just say you give it a number. I don't know, I'm not going to throw any numbers out there, but just give it a number and say, okay, so how many hours do I think is going to go into reaching this number? Okay. And then how many students might I need to help me raise or make this much money? Okay. So that's one way of approaching this. And there's so many different equations that come up when, say, you're working with a store to price your work. So again, you can use that equation. But sometimes I find that if I teach a class, so say this beginner sewing class, okay, if I teach that class once, okay, it costs a lot of money for me to do that class once because I had to come up with the curriculum. I had to come up with any projects that there might be and of that nature. Okay, so that class in the beginning, for the very first time, I'm in a deficit. I'm in the hole because of all the time I invested in that, and there's no way that I can price that class to make that money back on that first time. But the more I teach that class, the more profitable it will be, because I already have the systems in place. I already know how I'm going to present the class. I already know what kind of questions or problems are going to come up during the class. And it just gets easier. I've been telling people that beginner class, I don't even fret. If I have to go out of town and come back and, like the only thing that bothers me is if I have to fly. You know how that can be sometimes. But literally, if in the perfect world, if I caught a flight and got home and was able to walk in to us, to the college and teach that class, I wouldn't be worried about it at all, because I was prepared. And teaching classes like that really keeps you kind of humble, because working with the beginners, if it can go wrong, it will. It will. So you'll learn a lot about the machines too. And that one's just a very simple mechanical machine. So think about who you want to teach as well. Do you want to teach adults? Do you want to teach women? Do you want to teach men? Do you want to teach children? Do you want to teach them in your home? Do you want to do a summer camp? The list can go on and on and on. And kind of think about what kind of opportunities are available for you out there. I know, believe it or not, there is a lot of opportunities for classes like this, and especially with working with children. This past summer, I taught kids on campus for my local college, and it was a fantastic experience. I'm not going to lie, I was quite hesitant to do it at first because I don't have children, right? So I'm like, I don't know. I don't speak the same language they do. I don't know how to communicate with them so well. Am I going to explain something that goes over their head, but it was the best experience ever. And I thought it was really a lot of fun, because there's a huge difference between teaching adults and teaching children. And a lot of us will often say it's a little easier to teach children. And when it came to the machine, they were like sponges. They had no fear. Adults are oftentimes a little scared. And hey, aren't we all a little scared of, we're going to mess something up, we're not going to do it right. We feel like we have a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we don't allow us the opportunity to learn. And that is so important. So I do want you to think about what it is you want to do with your business, okay? And then there's always the other legal things that you have to think about. It might be like, how do I set up my business? How do I do the accounting? How do I do all the legal aspects of it? And honestly, it's not that hard. I only consulted an attorney once when I was concerned about the type of business I should set up. So, you have the sole proprietor, you have the LLC, there's like S Corps and all that. If you don't know, and I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an insurance person. So these are things that you're going to have to research yourselves. But, look at that. The things that you have to be concerned about are, of course, your own well-being and your personal liability issues, right? So you don't want to, when you talk to an insurance person, they will scare you to death. They will convince you that you need to turn around, run, and just forget this idea. I will say it's a good idea to have general liability insurance as a business person. I do have that, and it covers a lot. So that was probably like the last adulting thing that I invested in my business. And I would say I kind of took some chances along the way, because I work contractually with a company called Salke, who manufactures threads and stabilizers. I also work contractually with a company called Clover, who has a bazillion different crafting notions. And and then I used to be a baby lock educator. And sometimes as an independent contractor, you are not an employee for that company. So you don't get any benefits, right? Sure, they're going to pay you, but they're paying you for your services. So it's kind of like just like going into a quilt shop or something like that. They're paying you for the services that you are providing. And so we'll use Clover, for example. The service I provide is I go to these shows and I demonstrate how to use products. This pencil, oh, it's a mechanical pencil. No, I'm just being a little funny. But say this is the one that gets me a lot, is say I have a lot of bags and stuff like that I'm trying to fit underneath my little space that I have to work, and say a strap is out from underneath the table and somebody trips over that. I never really thought about that, but that is my responsibility right there. So that is like one of the reasons why I want insurance. Oftentimes we have to teach people how to use rotary cutters, so I want to be protected. And I'm not telling you this to scare you away. I'm telling you this because it's legit, right? So I do get concerned about that. But in the sewing world, they don't have to use rotary cutters. You can tell them how to trace it out, and they can cut with scissors, okay? A little less risk there. There's gloves that you can buy to help, wire mesh gloves, so that people won't cut themselves. So speaking about working independently with some companies, that's another option that you have. And so there's, you take a look inside your crafting space and look at all the different things that you might have in there, and start looking at the companies themselves. So I'm looking around here and I'm like, oh gosh, I have all Clover and all Sulky products right here. But okay, I can just use Sulky for example. You go to their website and you start checking them out. And you're like, hey, I wonder if they have any, you go to the website and you go down to the bottom, are they hiring anybody? So you click on that link and see if they have any jobs that are available. And then maybe they don't, but then you see this other little tab, it says affiliate. So you're like, oh, yay, what's this affiliate mean? Or you could even, what's the word I want to initiate a contact with them. So if you've been someone who's been in the industry for a while and perhaps you have a nice following of your own, they might be interested in talking with you and collaborating with you. I know there's a lot of pattern designers out there who really don't teach. What they do is they make the patterns, but they don't do the teaching part. So they might, that might be someone that you might be interested in working with. You might have made a lot of their patterns, for example, and that is someone else that you can contact and say, I've been sewing for X number of years and I've made 10 of your projects and I just absolutely love them. Your directions are so clear and I'd really love to share this with other people and teach classes, and then you can probably strike up some kind of working relationship for that. And that's another way that you can get your foot into the industry. So in the beginning, I talked about presenting yourself more professionally. So, I'm dressed very casually today. I kind of thought, do I want to dress up a little bit more? But it's Saturday morning, right? It's 9 o'clock here. Or 9:30 here. It's 6:30 over on the East Coast, so we're waking up. But think about how you dress when you might want to talk to these people, if you do that in person, so that way you look like you don't have to like totally get dressed to the nines, but you want to be able to wear, like, I would say slacks, okay? Slacks, leggings, something perhaps other than blue jeans. And if you're going to wear blue jeans, then you might want to dress it up a little bit more, okay? Like the casual Friday. But, so you just don't want to look like, like I do today with the sweatshirt on and the pants. And what I want to teach you is like presenting yourself to these entities so that they respect you more. Okay, so you're going to want to have your business cards. Okay, that's very important. Think about what kind of logo you might want to have. You can see mine on the screen there. I have my logo. Some people will leave their business entity as their name only, and that is quite all right. You can have a business name like I do, Sewing Machine Artistry. You have so many different things that are available now than what I had when I first started out. So the only thing that I had to communicate with people was the having a website, but having a Facebook account, like a professional one, aside from the one that you are you have your casual friends with. So there are just different things that you need to think about to present yourself professionally. And then just having the knowledge of walking in there. So stores will or businesses will have newsletters. So follow them and know what they're up to, know what different kind of programs that they are offering their customers so that they're not giving you the education about what they do, that you can start, not from the very basics, well, we've been in business for X number of years and we serve such and so and whatnot. You're more interested in how you can come in there and you can help them. Okay. So that's another way of presenting yourself more professional. And don't forget about this knowledge that you have up in your head that you've gained over all these years, right? You want to be familiar with like the tools. So if we'll just say, like, if you're walking into a store, for example, and they you'll be like, oh, I use a lot of Notions when I can. I use a lot of this thread, that kind of stuff. When you teach inside a shop, you are there and working for the shop itself. And what you're going to do is you're a salesman that day. Not only are you a teacher, but you're a salesman that day because they want their customers in their door. They want them to be happy when they're taking a class. They want them to learn. They want them to be inspired. But then when they leave, they want them to exit through the gift shop, right? They want their customers to pick up that thing that you were using that was so cool, that little glue stick that you had, because it was wonderful. A lot of times they in the industry they say to try to promote at least 7 different notions. A good class will promote at least 7 different items, and then plus anything else that you can throw in there is going to make your class more successful, not only with the students but with your customer who is hiring you for that event. So I don't want to ramble on too much. It's been since 9:30. It's 9:30 now. It's been about a half hour. I do not know. I am using a kind of like a program that allows me to broadcast out onto Facebook and YouTube at the same time, and I don't know how I can see the comments. I'm gonna look around here a little bit, poke around, see if I can find something that pertains to that, but I don't recall seeing a button. But if you have any questions or any comments that you would like me to talk about in the future, go ahead and drop that down into the comments section. I have officially launched this entity of my business, And you can find more information and sign up for my newsletter at sewingmachineartistry.com. You'll see it's called Empower, because I want to empower you to get out there and teach what you enjoy doing, make money, and have fun, right? That's nothing, there's so many times I will pinch myself, right? Because I can't believe I'm getting paid for it. Not only am I teaching people, but I'm having fun too. So, well, I look forward to working with all of you in the future. I appreciate your time on this Saturday morning. The holidays are coming up, so I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and whatever holiday that you celebrate, I hope you have a happy one and a safe one. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again in another live broadcast.